It's a cool video. Today I'm gonna show you 4 things. First of all, I'm gonna show you a mistake, I'm gonna show you a project, a couple of compressors, and I'm gonna show you one thing I would say a majority of my viewers never seen before about compression. Also, I'm gonna show you the proof. You know, we're gonna learn audio waveform, what exactly compressor does. Also, it will be shootout between 1176 compressors. This time I also gonna prove they all sound different, and what's the difference exactly between plugins you also gonna learn. Hi guys, nice to see you. My name is Andrew Zeleno. I'm a professional audio engineer with more than 10 years of working in professional audio production industry. Last 5 years I'm a teacher for really unique mixing production course online. It's in Skype, 9 months. Full fat top end course. Check it out, can be really helpful for you. Just imagine you find a course which can beat educational programs of the best universities, like let's say Berkeley. I got students from Berkeley, they said my course is better. Just imagine, after this course you will never need to learn anything. It's like the most advanced theory and practicing. What other schools don't do, they don't allow you to work on your own projects, and nobody checks your projects in the real time. You know, so they just give you some projects with settings and you learn how it was made. But nobody shows you how they were struggling to achieve those perfect settings. In our cases, we not only check your homeworks in real time, but also I show you how I struggle, how I think, how I make decisions. And the most important, we not just check projects, we compare with reference tracks. We got the best songs ever from, let's say, Chris Lord-Alge, one of the greatest audio engineers in the history, to bring your mixes at the same level. And you can check even reviews. On my channel you can find video with reviews, and you can see how people amazed with this course. So you can save 10 years. I'm known for ability to teach, so it's pretty clear. It's suitable even for beginners and professionals who want to bring levels higher. It's pretty affordable course, you know, relatively comparing to kind of other known production schools. Let's say it's better course with much more reasonable price. So check it out, it can be absolutely amazing kind of treasure you found suddenly on the internet. They created Mixing Masterclass with Chris Lord-Alge, this video from YouTube. And Chris Lord-Alge, you know, he releases these plugins, 1176 compressors, based on his Uray classic 1176 Bluestripe compressor and Blackface. By the way, in all these tutorials, I've noticed Chris Lord-Alge not always kind of gives you exactly kind of ideas about how he exactly mixes. On my course we kind of go deeper and I explain deep theory of his mixing skills. So in this video Chris Lord-Alge compares his two 1176 models, Blackface and Blueface, and it's absolutely crazy mistake. Check it out.
Got a lot of little fire. Love is the word. Gonna climb a little high.
If you didn't understand what's going on here, let me tell you. So, main problem here, he switches between black and blue just pressing that button. It's improper comparison because 1176 Blackface shows you only 2-3 dB maximum of compression, while when he switches to Blueface, Blueface shows you like 5-7 decibels of compression. Let me show you again. Right now it was blue, and blue shows you 5 dB of compression, right? So arrow jumps down to -5, gain reduction level. So between 5 and 7. And this is the black one, and black one shows you like 1-2 dB only. You know how you can compare a compressor which compresses by 5-7 dB versus the compressor which compresses by 1-2 dB. You know, I don't mean Chris Lord-Alge doesn't know what he does, right? He's my hero, you know, I respect this audio engineer more than anybody else. So don't think I kind of try to criticize Chris Lord-Alge, you know. But anyway, you know, you should never compare compressors in this way. You basically hear like more stabilized dynamics of one vocal, where words sounding like more compact. They sounding at the same level all the time. And second compressor compressing by 1-2 dB, it tries to correct your dynamics, but it's still not enough, and your words still will be like more dynamic. Some words will be louder, some words will be quieter, so you feel like more live performance, not so compact, not so sitting in the mix. So how you compare like that, right? Second aspect you probably didn't know about 1176 Blueface versus Blackface, they have a little bit different attack time. you know, so you can even measure these two compressors. So Blueface will be sounding like more smoothing out for transients in this case. What's exactly the difference between Blueface and Blackface? You should set up input level until your arrow shows you, let's say, the same amount of decibels, let's say 7 dB, and you correct output level what's going on after the compressor. And when you set up the second compressor, you start like from the scratch. You set up input level until your arrow shows you again 7 dB, and then you correct output level until you're gonna have the same volume. Don't check it with like meters, check with your ear, when you really feel like two compressors sounding at the same level. And then you switch between first and second one, first and second one. Now let me show you based on my project. Just because of right now we covering a topic called how many decibels you can allow yourself. A song dedicated to this topic, so check this song.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. How many decibels to allow myself? Seriously, lyrics came out, not to laugh about. Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. How many decibels to allow myself? Seriously, lyrics came out, not to laugh about.
Right? So over here you can see the same compressor called 11E76. So right now I'm gonna play a track called Santa Monica by Theory of a Deadman, one of the greatest reference tracks I used ever. It's pretty unbeatable. I tried so many different audio engineers and so many different songs. This song just has so transparent sound and so rich. It's not sharp, but at the same time really bright and really rich harmonics in sound of this song. So our mix actually not mixed fully, but it's like pre-mixing, but I believe it sounds really cool, even comparing to this, the greatest song ever. So let me show you Santa Monica.
She fills my bed with gasoline. You think I wouldn't notice? Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. You think I wouldn't notice? Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. How many decibels to allow myself? Seriously, lyrics came out, not to laugh about.
So I mean, you know, it's still not the same, but it's really close. If you compare your mix to this Santa Monica track, I mean, chances that you're gonna do at least like this, you know, pretty goes to zero. Anyway, who knows, right? I repeat, it's just pre-mixing, it's not full mix on. I didn't even do automation. That's it. So right now I'm gonna be doing the same what Chris Lord-Alge does, this mistake, switching between blue and Blackface, just using buttons. Let me show you. Blackface.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to...
So as you can see, somewhere around like 5 or 6 decibels maximum. And Blueface.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. How many decibels to allow myself?
Around 10, when I say how many decibels, something like 12 decibels of compression. Let me show you what's the difference between these two sounds. If you didn't notice how it sounds and what's the difference, I'm gonna tell you what exactly to listen to. Notice first phrase.
Waves CLA, what you do?
What you doing? So when I say what, right, Waves CLA, what you doing? Blackface compressing by 5 decibels is still not enough to correct this kind of increased volume of a word what. Notice how word what kind of jumps out of a mix.
Waves CLA, what you doing? Waves CLA, what you doing?
It's like too much volume. It means this compressor doesn't have enough amount of compression to really handle this word what, while Blueface can handle it.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not. Waves CLA, what you doing? My mix
sounds really flat, right? Vocal sits in the mix better because it has like more stabilized dynamics. It sounds like Waves CLA, what you doing? You don't hear like what increased volume of what.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My
So in this case, what conclusion we can make? Do you think Blueface like better compressor? Absolutely not. It's just basically 5 dB of compression and 10 decibels of compression. So make sure that you always make decisions on what kind of model of plugins to use, or analog compressor. Over here I have analog compressors, SSLs for example, or TL audio. You can really correctly compare those compressors if they have pretty similar attack, release and amount of compression. Okay, second part, in this case we're gonna have comparison between 11E76 native instruments / Softube. It's amazing company, Softube company, in my opinion, one of the greatest plugin manufacturers nowadays. As you can see, I have a Softube controller. It's 1176 made by Softube for Native Instruments bundle. They are supposed to be pretty similar compressors. Of course, you shouldn't be so trusty believer. You know, every plugin manufacturer anyway created their own product. You know, don't think they all 1176s. First of all, they are Waves, they are Softube, they are Universal Audio, and so on. First of all, they have nuances of these exact plugin manufacturers, and you easily can hear it. Over here, these two compressors sounds really different, but right now you're gonna learn one important thing about compressors. It's called VU meter. You know, arrow in analog devices can be really fast moving, but sometimes really slow moving. Basically, it's like inertia. You know, it's like how fast arrow reacts on gain reduction changes. In this case, we have totally two different plugins. For example, let's check Softube first. Right now, only lower one works. Notice how slow arrow goes in the lower compressor.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. How many that's it?
For example, when I say how many decibels, I say loud word how. In this case, arrow just doesn't have time to show you 10-12 decibels of compression. So it kind of tries to run up to that mark. You know, arrow thinks like this. Okay, I need to show 12 decibels, but you know, I try, but I so slow. Oh my god, already next word. Okay, I'm not gonna go to 12 decibels, and only shows you something like maybe 7 decibels of compression. So Softube arrow in this plugin just shows you much less amount of compression. I have pretty sensitive ear, and because of that I really instantly clearly can hear like more compression or less compression no matter what kind of results plugin shows me. And I instantly hear a lower compressor. In reality it compresses something around 10 decibels of compression actually, so more than it shows us. Second compressor, which is Waves 1176 version, this compressor shows us more real amount of compression because this arrow is really fast.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not.
Now this arrow shows us pretty similar amount of compression. And it's illusion, because in reality right now lower compressor compresses more than higher one. You can notice it by your ear if you have pretty sensitive ear. On our course, by the way, we train ability to hear, doing a lot of tests. We have these topics when we compare all possible plugins related to some classic model, you know, EQs, compressors. So we learned basically like 50 different compressors during the course. We learned like pretty 70 different equalizer plugins, you know. So after a while with practicing you're gonna hear all these little nuances. So our students pretty can recognize, you know, difference between sound of Universal Audio plugin, Waves plugin, Softube plugin. Notice how more packed and more kind of smooth, really kind of compressed lower compressor sounds. Right now it's this one.
Waves CLA, what you doing?
Waves, higher one, doesn't control dynamics that well.
Waves CLA, what you doing?
And again, problem with word what.
Waves CLA, what you doing?
Right, I say what and it's kind of really sounds like spiky because it's louder than other words. While in lower compressor, you know, it's enough amount of decibels of compression to really even out those phrases. So to prove my statement, what I do, I change settings for the higher compressor for the waves, and as you can see I push input level right now to make more compression. Look at the arrow, how many decibels right now it compresses.
Waves CLA, what you doing? Waves CLA, what you doing?
Like 10 or a little bit more than 10, you know, maybe up to 12 decibels of compression. You're not gonna hear so kind of emphasized sound D or, you know, what you, it will be still under control.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes. Waves CLA, what you doing? My mix.
They will be sounding now really similar in terms of how they control dynamics.
Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin. Waves CLA, what you doing? My mixes are not for you to ruin.
See, of course there is some sound, because those plugins sound just different, you know. Softube, for example, has much more bottom end. This compressor doesn't make your sound so tight like Waves one. Waves plugin like sounds thinner, like smaller, doesn't have so big bottom end. In this case, as you can see, we finally evened out these two compressors with each other. Just imagine right now what regular person does with these two plugins. If person really realized that Arrow should show you the same amount of compression, you would set up both compressors to show, let's say, 7 dB or 10 dB both. But just because of Arrow in the lower compressor slower, you need to really kind of compensate this difference with your eye and with your ear. And how many people, you know, just few people. So that's why it's so important to really understand your tool you apply for your music. Okay, we got it, let's go further. It's an 808 drum machine, and we're gonna be comparing 3 1176 models. 2 of them will be already familiar for us, so is these two. And lower one will be Universal Audio 1176, pretty known plugin, you all know this. So they set up similar, you know, the longest attack, the shortest release. What I do, I try to compress with the same amount of decibels. If you don't believe in this theory, like how fast Arrow reacts on your sound, we can set up arrows at this kind of with the same amount of compression. So waves compressed by between 5 and 6. Universal Audio also a little bit more than 5 or around 5. And Softube also around 5. Let's check waveforms of results. So original waveform looked like this. So first punch is pretty low. It's a transient, it's a click of this kick. It's like articulation of a kick in a busy mix. And right now it's not emphasized too much. Tail, kind of increase volume a little bit and then slowly go down. So it has pretty long tail. After we apply compressor with longest attack possible, we emphasize this initial punch, initial click, and that's why over here you can see this impulse. Looks much louder than other picks. In this case, this compressor emphasizes punch. That's why drum sounds like more articulated, more punchy in a mix. You can see pretty similar waveform of waves. You know, it's a punch and then kind of slowly going down tail. And the same going on over here in Universal Audio result. You know, it's also kind of pretty slowly go down. Right, so I compressed a little bit like less, maybe 1 dB less with the Universal Audio. That's why click relatively kind of not so loud comparing to other picks. We have pretty similar result in terms of tail. Notice pretty the same amplitude of peaks between first one and third one, but over here notice what happened with Softube. It's totally different result. Over here we see pretty loud punch, pretty loud click, but we have much quieter peaks afterwards, after this peak. Comparing to first impulse, much lower peaks. What it proves? It proves we compressed more with Softube. You know, so Arrow showed us bullshit, because Arrow just was so slow to really show you amount of compression. Distance between this first peak and the second peak, they are not so far away, and over here also not so far away. But in Softube, it means you emphasize click much more and squeeze tail of kick much more. So it's not 5 decibels, it's much more. Softube compresses more with the same amount of indication. Secondly, in this case, you also can notice how differently peaks go down after we start to compress. In this case, you can see that peaks not so fast going down. They don't look like they try to be quieter and quieter and quieter. Only after some period of time they really start to go down. While in Waves waveform, it's pretty obvious, noticeable, like every next peak over here will be quieter and quieter. And in Universal Audio waveform over here, is the same, quieter and quieter. If you put a cursor of DAW somewhere here, look at the cursor, you can see that Waves waveform after Waves plugin has so kind of low amplitude, and the same pretty low amplitude in Universal Audio. But it's much higher amplitude in Softube. That's why you hear much more growl in tail. So it just proves we have much more compression in a Softube with the same amount of indications. Let me show you how I can compensate it. So with Universal Audio, I'm gonna push more than just 5 decibels, let's say I increase input. And Arrow shows us right now almost like 20 decibels. And suddenly you hear this kind of growl in tail. You hear this like boo. pretty similar what we have with Softube. Universal Audio just doesn't have this kind of bottom end, you know, it's like more tighter sounding compressor. So right now on the screen you can see fourth waveform, this one. In this case you can compare Softube, this one, and this one. And finally, let me put it close to it. Right now we're gonna have this green, they look like much closer to each other. You can see amplitude of those peaks pretty the same, you know, so they don't go down so quickly. Over here you can see pretty similar amplitude, right? So tail kind of so long, and kind of behavior of the tail right now is really similar. So if you want to achieve this sort of long tail, prolonged tail, you should set up like more than 10 decibels using plugin like Universal Audio 1176. So basically this is the proof. You should believe in your ears, not in your eyes, right? Because eyes show you 5 dB, but they behave totally different. But if you compensate it correctly, as you can see, they look very similar. That's it. Subscribe to the channel. For the course, just go to the website. There is the description. You can see some video examples over there.